What's up everybody, Tindo here, and today's video is going to be a little bit different than our normal video. Normally our videos are us just going on wild, grand thrifting adventures, but today we're going to do something a little bit more informative. You see, somebody asked me on the channel the other day, what do you take with you when you go thrifting? And I think this person was expecting a simple answer like, oh, I take a screwdriver with me. But as answers are with me usually, the answer is quite a bit more complicated because I actually take a whole bag of stuff with me when I go thrifting. So we're going to talk about that today. What is it that I take to the thrift store? What is my everyday carry? Stick around. So this bag right here, you might have noticed it in a few of my videos. Honestly, the only time I actually have it around my shoulder is usually the first shot of the day when we're walking out to the van to get our adventure started. Other than that, when I go thrifting, this bag pretty much stays in my van, and then when I do need a tool out of it, I go to the van and get it. So it's not really something that I find that comfortable to wear because honestly, this is full of tools, as you're about to see here in a second. And it's just not, if I'm standing in a Goodwill bins all day, this is just not comfortable. So let's jump into what's in the bag. There's a whole lot in here. But I do want to say before I get into this stuff, a lot of this stuff is going to seem like overkill if you're just looking for tools to take with you to the regular thrift shop. Though there are a lot of tools in here that have saved me once or twice while regular thrifting. But what I'm getting at is that I use most of these tools at the Goodwill bins. Hannah and I often shop at the Goodwill bins daily. And if you're not familiar with our channel and you don't really know what I'm talking about, you need to go back and watch a bunch of our Goodwill bins videos. Just scroll down our YouTube feed. There's tons of videos. And once you see how we dig around at the Goodwill bins and take stuff apart, you're going to see why a lot of these tools are necessary for my thrifting adventures. But let's go ahead and jump into this bag. Let me take it off. We're going to get a couple things out of the way, okay? One of the biggest things that I carry with me every day is a rubber chicken. Because you just need to have a rubber chicken wherever you go. But the next big thing that I carry daily, that's not going to really pertain to a lot of you. A lot of you are not going to want to carry this stuff with you. But my main goal in life, above all else, is to shoot daily YouTube videos. That's my highest priority. So I keep a little bit of extra camera gear in here with me at all times. Basically, my main shooting setup is 2 GoPros. And I have one that is handheld that I walk around like this and talk to, and that's how most of these videos you watch are shot. And then this one is on a mechanism that just lets me attach this to whatever I want. If you ever see footage that looks like just a car driving around, it's usually because I attach this to the outside of my car, and that's that. And then I also keep this little iPhone tripod with me. And this thing is hugely important to me. If you ever see me take time lapses and all the extra little bits of footage on my channel, this is always the setup right here. This is the one. And I often also keep a microphone in here that goes on the iPhone and just sticks in there, and that's a backup camera. So if we're out doing something crazy, I can have up to 3 cameras on me at all times. I don't keep all of these cameras and all this camera equipment in my pocket at all times because that would just be too much to carry, but it stays in the bag, locked up in the van, and that's how I get these videos shot. Now, let's get into some of the more technical stuff. Around here on the front of the bag, there is 2 pockets. And in these 2 pockets, I usually keep one of the most important things when I go thrifting is this screwdriver set. It's an iFixit kit. To be honest with you, it's not terribly affordable. It's $60 or $70. But it's necessary for me because, as you guys know, if you've been watching for a while, I really, really like to buy gaming consoles, etc., etc. So a lot of the time, I'll test gaming consoles while I'm at the Goodwill bins, or sometimes even take them apart and get into them. And if they don't work properly, maybe I'll just go ahead and strip parts out while I'm there. Now, again, if you're new to the channel and somehow this is your first video, you're going to kind of be like, what the heck is this guy talking about? Because you can't walk into a regular Goodwill, right, and take your Super Nintendo apart. Well, you can at the bins. The bins, you're allowed to strip stuff and take parts of stuff. And so that's why I keep that with me. And this particular set of screwdriver bits has all the Nintendo bits and all the specialty stuff in it. That's why it's expensive. If you don't need to go as far as I do, I actually have this kit I just bought yesterday at a Walmart. It was $8, and honestly, it's about 89, 90% as good as my good kit. It doesn't have the special gaming bits, but it does have a nice screwdriver, a bunch of normal bits. And then actually the main reason I bought it, this extension right here, I'm actually going to take it and I'm just going to leave it in this one because I like that a lot better than the extension that comes with my original kit. So there's that. And then another big part of my everyday carry, and I think as I go through this stuff, it's going to seem more and more ridiculous, but the way that I've combined this kit to be my thrifting kit is really, I really put it together in a way that that would allow me to not ever have to struggle taking something apart at the Goodwills. So the next thing I've got is actually this handheld electric screwdriver. It's tiny. It's super tiny. It's not super torquey and powerful. You're not going to drive a screw into a wall, but you're going to very easily be able to take apart electronics. So what I can actually do with this is put an adapter bit in it, and then any of these specialty bits that are in this bad boy right here, I'm actually going to be able to put an adapter in and put the bits in and use it right here. So that's very, very handy. And this saves me a lot of trouble because sometimes at the Goodwill bins there will be computer parts. There'll be whole computers that I want to get parts out of. And as you know, this right here is going to take forever and it's very tiresome. So this is probably one of the most used tools for me in this bag. And I keep it charged up all the time, ready to go. I charge it probably once a month because the battery lasts forever. And I do highly recommend this. If there's anything I'm going to recommend to you that I have here is this Ryobi drill. Go to your local Home Depot, get one for like, I think they're 30 bucks. I've never regretted that purchase. But let's keep going. One more thing to add to that bunch of, well, two more things to add to the screwdriver nonsense. I do keep a ratcheting screwdriver in here. And it's exactly what it seems like. It can just go left or right. Don't use that as much as the drill because most of the time the drill will do. But if I get a screw that's really being held down tight and it needs to be ratcheted out, I'll start with that and then move on to the drill. One more screwdriver thing. This is pretty neat. I want to show this to you properly. I have two more screwdriver bits, a Phillips head and a flat head, that I actually keep in my bag. And it's one of the many customizations on this bag that I keep with me. These bits go right here, and at any given time, I pull them out of this this added bit of material, and that keeps them in there nice and tight. And I can actually put this Phillips head or this flat head in this drill. And what would something like that be necessary for, especially thrifting? I bet some of you are wondering. Well, when I first started carrying all this stuff with me thrifting, it was a little bit before we started this channel, and I did a lot of computer stuff when I would go to the Goodwill bins. And if you've ever taken a motherboard or a processor, et cetera, out of a computer, you know how hard it can be to get in there just right with a screwdriver sometimes. And I bought the most ridiculous long bits that I could find off of Amazon at the time. And so now what I can do is I can walk into the Goodwill bins, there's a video card or something, or if I want to take a whole motherboard out of a computer, just bloop, and it's done. It happens. That has saved me hours and hours and hours and hours. So that's all screwdriver stuff, right? And let's see. There's a couple more things in here. And honestly, these other things are just as important. Let's talk about my flashlight next. Now, my phone is kind of one of the more obvious everyday carry items that I keep with me. And that one would almost go without saying. But I do, when I'm in regular Goodwills, I quite regularly get out my phone flashlight and shine it on the bottom of items to read that smaller print that you can barely see with the naked eye. Or a good thing that's something I do a lot with small print on the bottom of items. I'll take a picture of it with my phone and then zoom in and read it. But another visual instrument that I keep with me is a really high brightness flashlight, because at the Goodwill bins, listen to me when I say this. If you don't have a good flashlight with you at the Goodwill bins, you're messing up. It will change your life. If your Goodwill bins is well lit, it's still necessary, but not as necessary. But our Goodwill bins, I started carrying a flashlight because I don't know what electric problems they're having, but half the time at our Goodwill bins, you can't see nothing in the back room where the big bins are. So I started carrying this for that reason. But I even realized once they fixed that lighting issue, that when you've got these big bins full of junk that just stack up in funny ways, you can see so much more with this light. I think a lot of people won't realize it because you're in a well-lit room. It doesn't register that you should have a flashlight. But those bins are 4 or 5 feet deep, and it turns out some of the better items I've ever found at the Goodwill bins is because I was shining a flashlight and I could see the small stuff on the bottom. So that's such a necessary item. This is one of 2 items out of this bag I'll actually often keep in my pocket. Something else that I'll do is that I'll get a Phillips bit out of here and I'll just put it in the screwdriver. And then what I'll actually do is that goes in my back pocket, and then that flashlight goes with it. And when I go shopping in the Goodwill bins, this stuff will stay in the car. Maybe once or twice a week I'll need something out of there that I go get out of the van. It's there if I need it. But those are almost always in my pocket. And honestly, I use the flashlight and I use the screwdriver daily at the Goodwill bins. And even when I just shop regular Goodwills, I'll keep this screwdriver in there because who knows, you know, when I find Nerf guns, I don't often put this stuff on camera because it's just complicated and it's extra, but I've very often taken parts of Nerf guns apart while inside of regular Goodwills. Every single Nerf gun that takes batteries has 4 or 5 screws holding it in, right? So it's a very useful tool, and I highly recommend taking those with you if you at all want to shop in the ways that you often see us shop on our videos. Now, I'm trying to see what else is in here. Sometimes I try to keep a tape measure in here, but there's not one in here now because, of course, I've lost it. I try to keep those smaller tape measures, but there's not one in my bag right now, but there often is. I always lose it because I keep buying those keychain sized ones. The last item that's currently in my bag is this small pair of scissors. And I don't know if I probably use the screwdriver the most, but I will say these scissors get used a ton. Probably more by Hannah than by me, because at the Goodwill bins, again, you're kind of allowed to take stuff apart. So Hannah will often be working on a new project, making something, putting something together, and she'll just go snip some buttons off of a dress and toss it aside, right? I don't know what else, but there's all kinds of things, you know, if we've broken something at home that needs a strip of leather or that needs a new strap, we'll go cut the strap off of something. And again, not all the time, but depending on what we're going into the bins to look for, I'll often keep a pair of scissors in the back of my pocket. And that's that. That's most of the stuff that I take with me daily when I go thrifting. It would be overkill to carry all of this into every thrift store, but it does get locked up in the back of my car, and that's that. The only other things, I guess, to mention, I keep a GoPro attachment strapped to the bag, and I've got this on wrong right now, but if I wanted to, I could put the GoPro on there, and every now and then there's a shot on my videos that is with this. I'll attach the GoPro, and then I can walk around hands-free. I don't do this at the bins because I don't like taking the bag into the bins because, honestly, it's just too heavy to walk around with all day, but often I'll have shots when I really need it where here's the GoPro and here's my hands doing stuff. So that's that. And then the last thing to talk about is maybe this bag itself. I found this at the Goodwill bins, so I can't even tell you what brand it is. I've heavily modified it. I've sewed straps together to have a longer strap. I actually tore the pretty lining out of it just so it had more room, less weight, and you know, and I could throw dirty old tools in there. We tore this pocket off of a t-shirt or something and threw it on there. I quite like the looks of it, and then I just often throw whatever tool that I'm regularly using in there. And yeah, that's my bag.
Oh hey, now we're going to talk about what I take to the thrift store. The first thing I'm going to talk about is IKEA bags. This is the single most important thing that we bring with us on any thrifting trip because we have so many different things that we need to keep organized. We thrift for everything in one single day, things for our booth, things for our personal collections, things for my clothing business, things for our video game collecting, and they all go to different places. Some is staying at the storage unit, some stays in the van to go be taken over to the booth, some has to go in to get priced. All of it needs to be filed away into an IKEA bag so we know where it needs to go and doesn't end up in the wrong spot. So these are tarp bags that are waterproof and super durable, and they're massive. So I can hold about like 50 pairs of jeans in this, like maybe a little bit of exaggeration, but I could probably cram it in, let's be serious. These I can carry really easily because these straps are very durable as well, and it's all evenly distributed, so it's not too heavy, and we have about 100 of them. We have tons of them filed away in the house with things that we already have packed up and sorted, and we have a lot of them here too that we keep in the van on every single trip so we can keep it all organized. But now I'm gonna go over my actual tool bag that I bring to mostly the bins. I don't really bring a lot of stuff into the retail stores because I'm not gonna be picking things apart at the retail store. But my bag is full of very, very different things than Dallas's bag because he's looking for electronics, I'm looking for clothes. My bag, first of all, is a fanny pack. I find different fanny packs all the time, so the bag itself does change. This is my newest favorite one because it's rainbow iridescent and goes with a lot of my outfits. I know that's vain and silly, but it just makes me happy. But whenever I go to the bins, I need things to be very lightweight and very compact because it's already pretty packed in the bins and I don't want to be too bulky around the table area. And this is a very easy thing to just put on my body, flip it around if I need to, you know, take it off, throw it in the cart if I need to, and it's not gonna be heavy and weigh me down all day. It's very nice. So if I would recommend you bringing something to the bins, bring a fanny pack. What's inside of the fanny pack is not a ton because there's not a lot of space in it, but everything that I have has a very specific purpose. First thing is kind of obvious, scissors. I bring these heavy duty, they're actually sewing scissors. They have a really good, what's the word for it? Like, what's the word for it? Strength? Torque?
They cut good.
These are actually really strong scissors, and I honestly use them most to cut denim off, meaning like jeans, making them into shorts. Because whenever it's summertime and I'm looking for cut off jeans, I don't need to be paying for the rest of the leg, because whenever I'm buying 10 pairs of jeans and all of them are gonna be cut off anyway, that is a ton of weight I can be saving, which is a ton of money I can be saving. So just whack the legs of them off, and then I choose the length a little bit later and make them perfect to be put on my page whenever I get home. So that's the main purpose. I also use them for things like, you know, just trimming, cutting off a bunch of little bits and bobs that don't need to be on there. Just general scissor stuff. The next thing, super, super important for me to bring, and if I forget everything else, I have to bring this. This is a measuring tape, pretty self-explanatory. It measures things, but honestly, the biggest use for this is whenever I am looking for jeans or vintage things in general, because vintage tags can be really deceiving. You can have a pair of shorts that say 8 on them, but they're actually a size modern 0. Or they could be a kid's 8. It's all very different, and it matters a ton because I sell to adult women. If I get a pair of 8 in kids, it's not gonna fit an adult woman. So if I end up bringing those home, I wasted money. And honestly, my biggest sellers are gonna be vintage Levi's that are a specific tininess. Anything that is a 24, 25, or 26 are big money makers because they are rare to find, because most Levi's are cut for men and they're gonna be 36, 38, 40. Those don't sell as well for me because women are mostly looking for the Levi's, and those are gonna be, well, unless you're my size, that's size, you know, like 16, I'm not gonna sell as many of those. But if I have a pair of jeans that are a 23 or a 22, which is a very minute difference, those will not sell. They are too small for an adult woman. So measuring tape is super, super important. Next thing is going to be a seam ripper. This thing has saved me on so many occasions, just for tiny little things you don't even think about. Like, I found a pair of jeans that have a weird, like, DIY sewing project from a costuming thing. Like, it was on stage with, like, I don't know, scarecrow patches on it, but it's a size 26 pair of Levi's. I'm gonna get them patches off. And also, like, patches that are fun. Like, if I have a cool Dragon Ball Z patch on a jacket that I don't need the jacket, I just need the patch. Take that off, got it. I'm gonna sew it on something different than I would like. So seam ripper, fantastic tool to bring. Next thing that's actually very specific is this teeny tiny box. And this is really great for keeping the little things that I trim off of, you know, like army pants. I constantly find army pants with no buttons on them. And it's very easy for me to sell a pair of army pants to people. But if without the button, it's not really a lot of use. So I will source buttons off of jackets that don't actually sell very well, keep them in the little box. And they're safe and they're not rattling around in my fanny pack. They're just also other little things that I source off of pieces as well. Last thing is gonna be a pencil, which is very specific purpose, is really just so that I can mark if I'm sitting there not doing a ton during a rotation. I can start to like trim off those shorts onto the perfect length. I can get things, you know, written on for what I'm gonna be doing with it later. If I'm gonna be altering a project, just a little way to save time while I'm sitting there doing nothing. And that's everything I take to the thrift store.
And that's it, guys. That is everything that we take to the thrift stores. Now, what I'm really interested in, is there anyone watching who takes anything at all, like we've mentioned, or anything else to the thrift store with them on the regular? I don't know what to expect from you guys. I imagine there's probably people that, not unlike us, take scissors or take flashlights or something like that to the bins. But more so, I'm hoping some of you guys have thought of some neat, clever tools that are something like mine or something different that I might be able to start carrying too. So definitely comment below. And if you want to go maybe even a step further, go join our Discord. The link is below. And come to our Discord and share some pictures, which you can't do in the YouTube comment section, of some of the stuff, some of the tools that maybe you use regularly on your thrifting adventures or maybe your thrifting projects. That would be a super awesome thing to happen today. Now, also before you go, a huge favor, and this is probably the biggest favor I could ever ask of you, please hit that subscribe button. I know you hear every YouTuber you watch ask that every day, but it is unfortunately important. I wouldn't say that our success on YouTube is directly correlated to sub count, but it is a huge part of it. So if you're watching, or if you've been watching for a little while, pretty please help us out and hit that sub button. Help us get on to 2,000 subs just as quickly as we can. And then, guys, if you are subbed, of course, hit that notification bell so that tomorrow, if we post a regular thrifting adventure video like we usually do, or if we post something more informative like this, you'll get a notification as soon as that video is posted. You can come back then and you can hang out with us then. And until then, peace out.